Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vṛndāvaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamam Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya.
So here we are in Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 16. The title of the chapter is The Lord's Attempt to Go to Vṛndāvana. So Shri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, he is deeply desiring to go to Vṛndāvan Dham, and we will see what all happens in his endeavor to go to Vṛndāvan. So this is again a long chapter, and let's see how many verses we can cover today. Beginning with the first section, Lord Chaitanya desires to go to Vṛndāvan. Gaudo Dhyanam Gauramegha Sinchan Swalokanamritahi Bhavagni Dagdha Janata Viruddha Samajivayat. By the nectar of his personal glance, the cloud known as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu poured water upon the garden of Gaudadesh and revived the people, who were like creepers and plants burning in the forest fire of material existence. So if there is a garden and there are many creepers and plants and there is a forest fire, so there is no hope for them to survive in that forest fire. And this forest fire, nobody specifically puts it, it's a natural occurrence. And so it is compared to all the miseries, the Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik problems in the material world, they come on their own accord. Like happiness, the distress, everything comes on their own accord. So that is like the forest fire of material existence. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so if you want to extinguish the forest fire, we need water not from fire tenders or buckets of water. We need a full-fledged heavy rain from the clouds, and that cloud is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a cloud, mercy cloud, he is pouring the mercy upon the people who are being burnt up by the fire of material existence, by the nectar of his personal glance. So all the devotees in Gauda Desh, all the people, not devotees, all the people in Gauda Desh, they are receiving the glance of the Lord, which is full of nectar, which is saving them from the fire of material existence. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chandra, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of the Lord.
Prabhu Rahaila Ichha Yaite Vṛndāvana, Shuniya Pratap Rudra Haila Vimana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to go to Vrindavan, and Maharaj Pratap Rudra became very morose upon hearing this news. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself. He can do whatever he wants. He is completely independent. He is not dependent not just on people. He is not dependent on people. He is not dependent even on laws of nature, because all of them obey the command of the Lord. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is deciding to go to Vrindavan, and Maharaj Pratap Rudra becomes very morose. Why? Because immediately he begins to feel the separation from the Lord. So if Lord goes away from Puri, then all the devotees there, including the king Pratap Rudra, will experience such separation from the Lord. So he becomes very morose.
Sarvabhauma Ramananda Hari Dui Jana Duha ke kahe na Raja Vinaya Vachana. The king therefore called for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Rai and spoke the following submissive words to them. So king is disheartened at the news and he's trying. So let's see how he's trying. He has called Sarvabhauma and Ramananda. Niladri chadi prabhur mananyatra yaite tomara karaha yatna tahare rakhite.
Pratap Rudra Maharaj said, please endeavor to keep Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here at Jagannath Puri, for now he is thinking of going elsewhere. So Maharaj Pratap Rudra has called some of the most confidential devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and requested them that please somehow or other you endeavor and let Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be in Jagannath Puri, because he started thinking of going elsewhere. So please try your best for not letting that happen.
Taha vina e raja more nahi bhaya gosai rakhite kara nana upaya. Without Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this kingdom is not pleasing to me. Therefore, please try to devise some plan to enable the Lord to stay here. So though the king knows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desires to go, but king wanted association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is why he called his most intimate devotees and he is requesting that please do some way, like find out some plan, some way to keep him here. Ramananda Sarvabhauma Dui Jana Sthane Tabe Yukti Kare Prabhu Yabe Vṛndāvane.
After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself consulted Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, saying, I shall go to Vrindavan. So as Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya received this order from the king, request from the king, they were thinking what to do. And in the meanwhile, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented this request to the two of them that I shall go to Vrindavan.
Duhe kahe ratha yatra kar darshana Kartika aile tabe kariha gamana. So they know that they could not change the plan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely. So what they are saying is they are sort of buying time. What they are requesting Mahaprabhu now, ki first observe the Rath Yatra festival. Rath Yatra is coming now. So observe Rath Yatra, and then when the month of Kartik arrived, he could go to Vṛndāvana. So they are sort of postponing at least by 3-4 months. So when the Kartik comes,
Rath
then
Yatra
you
is in
plan for
June.
Vṛndāvana.
And Kartik month this year will come sometime in November. So many months they're requesting the Lord to postpone his plan.
Kartika aile kahe be mahashita, dola yatra dekhi aao e bhalarita.
However, when the month of Kartik came, they both told the Lord, now it is very cold. It is better that you wait to see the Dola Yatra festival and then go. That will be very nice. So of course, I mean, the reason being presented here is very appropriate because compared to Jagannath Puri, North India, Vrindavan especially becomes extremely cold. The weather is very chilly. So they're requesting the Lord that it's better now. It is not a good time. You go after Dola Yatra. It will warm up a little. Possibly this is in springtime. So that will be very nice. So actually these devotees are also experiencing the impending separation from the Lord, and therefore not just the king, but these devotees are also trying their best somehow to postpone this trip of the Lord.
आज काली करी उठाए विविध उपाया, यैते सम्मति न देया विच्छेदेर भाया. In this way, they both presented many impediments, indirectly not granting the Lord permission to go to Vṛndāvana. They did this because they were afraid of separation from him. So we have heard that how when Chaitanya Mahāprabhu came to South India and he was here and the devotees were feeling so much of separation from them. So after very long separation, Mahaprabhu had come back to Jagannath Puri and had a few Rath Yatras together. And now he is again asking to go to Vṛndāvana. So they are all feeling a lot of fear of separation. That is why they are not allowing him to go to Vṛndāvana. यद्यपि स्वतंत्र प्रभु नहि निवारणा, भक्त इच्छा बिना प्रभु न करेगा मना.
Although the Lord is completely independent and no one can check him, he still did not go without the permission of his devotees. So Lord is completely independent. Lord does not depend on anything or anyone. He is independent of even the laws of nature. He is the master of Prakriti. So all the laws obey him, his command. So he is completely independent, Swatantra, and yet he is dependent on his devotees. So this is the sweet nature of the Lord, that Lord can do whatever he wants, but then he does what his devotees want him to do. So this is the sweet nature of the Lord, that he cannot give up the association of his devotees and the devotees cannot give up his association.
So moving in the next set of verses from 12 to 58, the devotees of Bengal come to Jagannath Puri. In the last chapter we saw Chaitanya Mahāprabhu was sending them off. Now this is the next year and again the devotees have arrived to Jagannath Puri. Tritiya vatsare sabha gaude bhakta gana, Lila-16 sabha haila mana.
Then for the third year, all the devotees of Bengal wanted to return again to Jagannath Puri. So somehow or other, the two devotees, Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, were convincing enough. They could convince the Lord to stay back for the Rath Yatra. And here, all the devotees of Bengal, they were very, very eager to see Jagannath, to see the Rath Yatra, and especially to meet Chaitanya Mahāprabhu.
Sabe mili gela advait acharya pashe, Prabhu dekhita acharya chalila ullase. All the Bengalis devotees gathered around Advaita Acharya and in great jubilation the Acharya departed for Jagannath Puri to see Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. So Advaita Acharya is sort of a leader there and along with all of them are coming again to meet Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. Yadyapi Prabhura agya gaudite rahite, Nityananda Prabhu ke prema bhakti prakashite, Tathapi chalila Mahāprabhu re dekhite, Nityananda prema cheshta ke pare bujhite.
Although the Lord told Nityananda Prabhu to stay in Bengal and spread ecstatic love of God, Nityananda left to go see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who can understand Nityananda Prabhu's ecstatic love? So Nityananda Prabhu had been ordered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you go to Bengal and you preach and you spread the ecstatic love of God. And yet, despite receiving this instruction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu is also accompanying the Bengal devotees and coming to have darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So who can understand this great ecstatic love that Nityananda Prabhu feels for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Charitamrta-93 Srivas Ramai Vasudeva Murari Govindaditi Bhai Raghava Pandita Nija Jali Sajana Cooling Grama Vashi Chale Pattadori Lana. So by now we would be acquainted with all these wonderful personalities, and I hope we all remember them. So what is happening now? All the devotees of Navadvip departed, including Acharya Ratna, Vidyanidhi, Srivas, Ramai, Vasudev, Murari, Govinda and his two brothers, and Raghav Pandit, who took bags of assorted food. So Raghav Pandit was famous for his jhali, these bags where he would bring all varieties of food. So he packed and decorated his food bag. The inhabitants of Kulinagram carrying silken ropes also departed. So we remember in the last chapter, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction to the residents of Kulinagram that every year this silken rope to tie the chariot of Jagannath should come from your village. So following that instructions, they are bringing this silken rope also. Khandavasi Narahari Shri Raghunandana Sarva Bhakta Chale Tara Ke Kare Ganana.
Narhari and Shri Raghunandan, who are from the village of Khanda, and many other devotees also departed. Who can count them?
Shivananda Sena Kare Gadi Samadhana Sabare Palana Kari Shukhela Nayana. Shivananda Sen, so he was the travel in charge, the coordinator of the travel party. So who was in charge of the party, made arrangements to clear the tax collecting centers. He took care of all the devotees and happily traveled with them. So Shivananda Sen, we would remember that he would make all the arrangements, the travel arrangement, the stay arrangement en route, the prasadam arrangement, the toll collection, everything was arranged by him. Sabar sarva karya kare dena vasasthana Shivananda jane udi apathe sandhana.
Shivananda Sen took care of all the necessities the devotees required. In particular, he made arrangements for residential quarters and he knew the roads of Orissa. So at that time, the devotees would travel on foot and they would travel large part of the day and then they will take rest in the night and then the next day again they will travel. So there are a lot of things that were required, especially the place of stay, and also the routes had to be done. Now we have Google Maps, but you remember probably a decade or two back, if you do not know the road, we will stop everywhere and ask the people, okay, I have to go here, where do I go, take left, take right, and we are completely dependent on their mercy. So here Shivananda Sen knew the roads of Orissa, so he was just the right person to guide the whole yatra, and Shivananda Sen also was instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to serve the devotee community and to serve them by organizing such yatras.
So Shivananda Sen was what? The GPS, the Make My Trip, the Swiggy, Zomato, like all in one was Shivananda Sen. Sevatsara Prabhu dekhite sab Thakurani Chalila Acharya Sange Achyuta Janani. That year, all the devotees' wives also went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sita Devi, the mother of Achyutananda, went with Advaita Acharya. So all these wonderful devotees, this time, the wives also accompanied. Shivasa Pandita Sange Chalila Malini Shivananda Sange Chale Tahara Grahini.
Shivas Pandit also took his wife Malini, and the wife of Shivananda Sen also went with her husband.
Shivananda Balak Nama Chaitanya Dasa तेहो चलियाचे प्रभु रे देखिते उल्लास. Chaitanya Das, the son of Shivananda Sen, also jubilantly accompanied them as they went to see the Lord. Acharya Ratna Sange Chale Tahara Grahini Tahara Premera Katha Kahite na Jani.
The wife of Chandrasekhar or Acharya Ratna also went. I cannot describe the greatness of Chandrasekhar's love for the Lord. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, he is compiling Chaitanya Charitamrta and he is writing about these devotees, about this yatra here. And as he is writing, this is spontaneous remembrance of Krishnadas Kaviraj. So when he comes to Acharya Ratna or Chandrasekhar, so suddenly he remembers and recalls the greatness of Chandrasekhar's love for the Lord. So it's such an ecstatic service.
सब ठाकुराणी महाप्रभु के भिक्षा दीते प्रभु नाना प्रिय द्रव्य नीलघर हईते. To offer Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu various types of food, all the wives of the great devotees brought from home various dishes that pleased Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now it is very interesting and fascinating. Like when I was reading and preparing for this session, I was thinking that how it is the whole family affair. How what we are discussing is 500 years ago. We talk so much about gender discrimination and disparity, but here we see that all the devotees are serving so happily along with their wives. In fact, the last session when we were reading about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya inviting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, so there also we saw that how his wife was so eagerly and happily participating and assisting in all the services to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here also the mention is there that all the wives, so they knew what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu likes. So from Bengal, they carried certain vegetables, etc., which was not available in Orissa, but they knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu liked those things. So they all so carefully, they are planning and meditating on how to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shivananda Sena Kare Sab Samadhana Ghatiyala Prabodhi Dena Savarvasasthana.
As stated, Shivananda Sen made all arrangements for the party's necessities. In particular, he pacified the men in charge of living taxes and found resting places for everyone. So here we see that it is actually a lot of work and a lot of maturity is required and managerial skills are required. And Shivananda Sen was expert at all of that and he made very wonderful arrangements. And in one of the previous verses where it was mentioned, it was mentioned that Shivananda Sen also happily traveled. So usually the devotee or person who's in charge of managing, usually there'll be a lot of stress and anxiety and he'll be feeling, not always he'll be feeling happy. But here we see that the consciousness of the devotees was such who were traveling and who were organizing the yatra. So their consciousness was such that they were not feeling any trouble. They were all blissful.
Bhakshadiya kare sabara sarvatra palane parama anandayana prabhura darshane. Shivananda Sen also supplied food to all the devotees and took care of them along the way. In this way, feeling great happiness, he went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. Remunaya siya kaila gopinath darshana acharya karila taha kirtana nartana.
When they all arrived at Remuna, they went to see Lord Gopinath. In the temple there, Advaita Acharya danced and chanted. So this is the temple where Lord Gopinath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this story of Gopinath who stole the kheer, his prasad for his dear devotee Madhavendra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri was thinking, this kheer is so nice that they offer to the deity here. If I can get little bit to taste, then I can also make similar bhoga for my Lord at Vṛndāvana. So this he was thinking, So the Lord, in the night when this payasam was or condensed milk was offered, the Lord stole one pot and kept behind himself. The pujari removed everything, closed the curtain, went off to sleep, and then in his dream, the Lord appeared and said that I have kept one pot for my devotee, and you please hand it over to him. So then the pujari came, took that pot, searched for Madhavendra Puri, and handed over that pot of sweet condensed milk to him. So all these devotees traveling from Bengal have just reached Remuna and the temple of Lord Gopinath, and Advaita Acharya is ecstatically chanting and dancing.
Nityanandir parichaya sab sevak sane bahut sammana asi kaila sevak gane. All the priests of the temple had been previously acquainted with Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Therefore, they all came to offer great respects to the Lord.
Sri Ratri Sabha Mahantahani Rahila Barashirani Age Sevak Dharila. That night, all the great devotees remained in the temple, and the priests brought 12 pots of condensed milk, which they placed before Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So this was that famous prasadam of the deity, and 12 pots of this prasad has been brought in front of Lord Nityananda Prabhu.
Shirabati sabardila Prabhu Nityananda Shir Prasad Pana Sabar Badila Ananda. When the condensed milk was placed before Nityananda Prabhu, he distributed the prasadam to everyone, and thus everyone's transcendental bliss increased. Madhava Puri Rakatha Gopala Sthapana Tahare Gopala Yaiche Magila Chandana.
Then they all discussed the story of Sri Madhavendra Puri's installation of Gopal deity, and they discussed how Gopal begged sandalwood from him. So Madhavendra Puri was in Vṛndāvana at Govardhan, and then he had a dream where this deity asked him to be excavated and installed, and then the deity again came and he said that ordered Madhavendra Puri to get sandalwood. And that's why Madhavendra Puri traveled all the way from Vṛndāvana to the king of Puri to receive the sandalwood so that he can take it back to Vṛndāvana.
Tanra lagi Gopinatha Shira Churi Kaila Mahaprabhu Mukhe Age Ekatha Shunila. It was Gopinath who stole condensed milk for the sake of Madhavendra Puri. This incident had been previously related by Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu himself. And since Chaitanya Mahāprabhu has himself revealed and discussed, so I hope that all of us remember that incident. We discussed in much in detail. Mahaprabhu describes so ecstatically the whole thing, and Prabhu just briefed that also.
Sikatha Sabar Madhya Kahe Nityananda Shuniya Vaishnava Mane Badila Ananda. This same narration was again related by Lord Nityananda to all the devotees, and their transcendental bliss increased as they heard the story again. So this is so nice. All the devotees are assembled in the temple. Lord Nityananda is sharing the pastime which has happened in that particular temple, and the devotees were just so blissful.
Hey mata chali chali katak aila Sakshi Gopal dekhi sabe se din rahila. So now they have reached the city of Katak, the Sakshi Gopal, and I hope that we all remember that pastime also. So they all remained for a day and saw the temple of Sakshi Gopal.
Sakshi Gopalera Katha Kahe Nityananda Shuniya Vaishnava Mane Badila Ananda. When Nityananda Prabhu described all the activities of Sakshi Gopal, transcendental bliss increased in the minds of all the Vaishnavas.
Prabhu ke milite sabar utkanta antare Shigra kari aila sabe Shri Lila-16. Everyone in the party was very anxious at heart to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, they hastily went on to Jagannath Puri. So if we remember, it is mentioned that this is for the third consecutive year that the same party was going to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu via the same route. So the route is also the same. The stories, the pastimes, the temples, everything is the same. And yet the devotees are relishing each and every pastime so much. So that is what Srila Prabhupada says, that if we have to read the same newspaper again and again, I mean, nobody does that and no one can do that. But when we talk about the amazing transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord, no matter how many times we read and we hear, it gives so much of joy and pleasure to the devotee's heart. 18 के आइला गोसाई शुनिया दुई माला पठाइला गोविंद हाथे दिया.
When they all arrived at a bridge called 18 Nala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing the news of their arrival, sent 2 garlands with Govinda. So all these devotees are very eager. There, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was eager and he was waiting, and when he heard the news that, oh, devotees have reached, Bengal devotees have reached at this 18 Nala, so he sent 2 garlands through Govinda. Dui mala Govinda, dui jane paraila, Advaita Avdhuta Gosai, Bada Sukha Paila.
Govinda offered the 2 garlands to Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, and they both became very happy.
Tahani arambha kaila Krishna Sankirtana, Nachite nachite chali aila dui jana. Indeed, they began chanting the holy name of Krishna on that very spot, and in this way, dancing and chanting, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu reached Jagannath Puri. So this 18 Nala is quite a distance actually from Puri, and receiving this garland, remembering Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath, these devotees, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, became ecstatic, and from then on, they were dancing and chanting, and that's how they reached Jagannath Puri.
Punamala diya swarupadini jagana, agu badi pathaila shachira nandana. Then for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent garlands through Swarup Damodar and other personal associates. Thus, they went forward, sent by the son of Mother Shachi. Narendra asiya taha sabare milila, Mahaprabhu datta mala sabare paraila.
When the devotees from Bengal reached Lake Narendra, Swarup Damodar and the others met them and offered them the garlands given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is welcoming all the Bengal devotees.
Simhadware nikataila shuni gaura raya, apane asiya prabhu milila sabaya. When the devotees finally reached the lion gate, so we all remember that lion gate, we have been there through the sound vibration. If we have not been there personally, we have been there through sound vibration. So this is the main entrance gate of the Jagannath Puri temple. Jagannath temple has 4 doors in 4 directions, and most often used in the main gate is this one. So when the devotees finally reached the lion gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the news and personally went to meet them. Sabalana kaila Jagannath darshana, Sabalana aila puna apana bhavana.
Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his devotees visited Lord Jagannath. Finally, accompanied by them all, he returned to his own residence. So finally, the devotees met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All of them had ecstatic darshan of Jagannath. And then finally, the Lord, accompanied with all his devotees, went to his own residence.
Vaninath Kashi Mishra Prasada Anila, Swahaste Sabare Prabhu Prasada Khaila. Vaninath Rai and Kashi Mishra then brought a large quantity of prasadam, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed it with his own hand and fed them all. Purva Vatsare Yandraye Vasasthana,
Taha saba parthana karaila vishrama. In the previous year, everyone had his own particular residence, and the same residences were again offered. Thus, they all went to take rest. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered them garlands, then took them for darshan of Jagannath, then fed them personally, served them prasadam, served personally, and then all of them were shown their residences which they had previously, last year also they had occupied.
He mat bhakta gana rahila chari masa Prabhu sahita kare kirtana vilasa. So like how we have read in detail all these things, so this year also for 4 continuous months, all the devotees remained there and enjoyed chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So in our temple in ISKCON Chennai, we had Kirtan Mela in January. That was for 3 days. Here devotees are celebrating Kirtan Mela for 4 months.
4 months with Mahaprabhu, and then they go back and they do that again.
And on the way also.
Purvavat ratha yatra kalayave aila sabalana gudicha mandira prakshaila. As in the previous year, they all washed the Gundicha temple when the time for Rath Yatra arrived. Kulingrami patta dori Jagannath dila Purvavat ratha agre nartana karila.
The inhabitants of Kulin Grama delivered silken robes to Lord Jagannath, and as previously, they all danced before Lord's car.
Bahu nrityakari puna chalila udyane Vapi tirtaha yai karila vishrame. After dancing a great deal, they all went to a nearby garden and took rest beside a lake. So last time also that happened, and there was a first time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave darshan to King Prataprutra when he was resting. Rani eka viprate ho Nityananda dasa Mahabhagyavana te ho Nama Krishna dasa.
A Brahmana named Krishnadas, who was a resident of Radha Desh and a servant of Lord Nityananda's, was a very fortunate person.
Ghat bhari prabhurte ho abhisheka kaila Tanra abhisheke prabhu mahatripta haila. So why was Krishnadas so fortunate? Because it was Krishnadas who filled a great water pot and poured it over the Lord while he was taking his bath. The Lord was greatly satisfied by this. So those of us who have deities at home, we do abhishek to our little deities. Here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was taking bath, and Krishnadas got the opportunity to do abhishek directly for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Balagandi bhogir bahu prasad aila Saba sange Mahaprabhu prasad khaila. The remnants of food offered to the Lord at Balagandi then arrived in great quantity, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his devotees ate it.
Purvavat ratha yatra kaila darshana Hera Panchmi Yatra dekhe lana bhakta gana. As in the previous year, the Lord with all the devotees saw the Rath Yatra festival and the Hera Panchmi festival as well. Acharya Gosai Prabhur Kaila Nimantrana Tara Madhya Kaila Yaiche Jadavarishana.
Advaita Acharya then extended an invitation to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there was a great rainstorm connected with that incident.
Vistari Varniya Chena Dasa Vṛndāvana Shrivasa Prabhure Tabe Kaila Nimantrana. All these episodes have been elaborately described by Srila Vṛndāvan Das Thakur. Then one day, Srivas Thakur extended an invitation to the Lord. So here we see that Krishnadas Kaviraj has just given us a drop of that Prasadam Leela, where Advaita Acharya had invited Mahaprabhu, and it is mentioned that there was a great rainstorm connected with that incident. And here he writes that it has been described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So let's move to Chaitanya Bhagavat and find out what was happening there, and then we will come back to Chaitanya Charitamrta.
एक दिन श्री अद्वैत सिंह महामती प्रभु रे बलीला आजी भिक्षा करई थी. One day, the magnanimous lion-like Advaita Acharya requested the Lord, please take your lunch at my house today. मुष्टि एक तंडुल प्रभु रांधिबा आपना हस्त मोर धन्य हऊ तोमार भक्षणे.
I cook only a handful of rice. Please accept so that my hands will become glorious. So we can meditate on the mood of Advaita Acharya as how out of humility and how convincingly simultaneously he is inviting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may start thinking that he'll cook so many items and I'm a sannyasi and I should not be eating. So before itself, Advaita Acharya is telling that I cook only a handful of rice. And if you will eat food cooked by my hands, then my hand will become glorious.
प्रभु बोले ये जाना तो मारा अन्न खाया कृष्ण भक्ति कृष्ण से पाया सर्वथाया. The Lord replied, whoever eats your rice certainly attains Krishna bhakti, certainly attains Krishna and his devotional service. Krishna bhakti Krishna se paya sarvathaya.
आचार्य तुम्हारा अन्न अमर जीवना
तुम्ही खाओ याइले हया कृष्णेरा भोजना. तुम्ही ये नैवेद्य करा करी आरंधना मागी आओ खाइते आमार ताते मना.
O Acharya, your rice is my life. Krishna certainly eats whatever you cook. When you prepare an offering for Krishna, I am ready to even beg for the remnants. So imagine Advaita Acharya is telling that my hands will become glorious if you will eat the food cooked by me. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving a counter statement. He's saying that if you prepare an offering, Krishna definitely eats. And if you prepare an offering, I'm ready to beg and eat. You are begging me that I should come to your house. Actually, I beg, please give me food which you have cooked.
So from this whole conversation, we understand that how what is Krishna consciousness. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, in the mood of a great devotee and a sannyasi, and Advaita Acharya also in the mood of a great devotee. So we see that what is the consciousness of these devotees while inviting and while accepting the invite.
Shunina Prabhura Bhakta Vatsalata Vani ki Anande Advaita Bhase Nahi Jani.
Who can understand the ecstasy of Advaita felt when he heard such affectionate words from the Lord? So Advaita Acharya was greatly ecstatic when he heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu these great affectionate words. So much affection was apparent in what Lord was telling him.
Parama Santoshe Tabe Vasaye Aila Prabhu Rikshara Sajja Karite Lagila. In great satisfaction, Advaita then returned home and made arrangement for the Lord's meal.
Fistful of rice.
Lakshmi Amshe Janma Advaitera Pativrata Lagila Karite Karya Hai Harashita. Advaita's chaste wife, who was an expansion of Lakshmi, began to joyfully prepare for cooking.
Prabhura Pritera Dravya Gaura Desha Haite Yatani Yachin Saba Lagile Nadite. She gave Advaita those items that were dear to the Lord that she had brought from Bengal. So Sita Thakurani had brought the items which are Lord's favorite, possibly because some of them may not be available in Jagannath Puri. So anyways, so she gave Advaita Acharya all those items which were very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Randhane Vasila Shri Advaita Mahashaya Chaitanya Chandrere Kari Hridaya Vijaya. Sri Advaita Acharya then meditated on Lord Chaitanya as he sat down and began cooking. So in this consciousness, while gathering all the important things which is pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the ingredients he gathered, and most importantly, he gathered his thoughts and he meditated on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he began to cook.
Pativrata vyanjanera paripati kare yate ka prakara kare yena chitte spure.
His chaste wife made preparations for cooking different vegetables according to the inspiration that manifested in her heart. So these are great. I mean, she is the expansion of Lakshmi Devi. So of course they are Nitya Siddha. They are actually the energy of the Lord. She's the energy of the Lord. So she's receiving inspiration from within her heart. What preparations to make from the different vegetables.
Shake Ishwarera Bada Priti Hajani Nana Shaka Dilen Prakadashani. She knew the Lord was very fond of shak. So she gave Advaita 10 varieties of shak she had brought. When I read this, I was thinking how they would have preserved these shak. Shak are the green leafy vegetables like spinach. So 10 varieties she brought from Bengal to Odisha. She saved it. And now when Mahaprabhu is coming, so they are preparing. So she gives these 10 varieties of shak to Advaita Acharya.
Acharya Randhena Pati Vrata Karya Kare Dui Jana Bhase Yena Ananda Sagare.
Advaita Acharya cooked and his chaste wife assisted. In this way, they both floated in an ocean of happiness.
Advaita Balena Shuna Krishna Daser Mata Tomare Kahiye Ami Ekamana Katha.
Advaita said, O mother of Krishna Das. So Krishna Das here refers to Krishna Mishra, who is the son of Advaita Acharya. So that is how he is addressing to Sita Thakurani. He is calling her by Krishna Das's mother. So he says, O mother of Krishna Das, listen, let me tell you what I am thinking. So we have heard that he is meditating on on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We also heard that how Advaita Acharya and Sita Thakurani, they were floating in an ocean of bliss. Why? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the center. So any marital problem, bring Krishna in the center and the problems would be resolved. That is what we are learning from this amazing couple.
Yata kichu ei mora karilu sambhara Kona rupe prabhu sabha karena svikara.
I don't know how, but I want the Lord to relish everything that we have cooked. So Advaita Acharya is very genuinely thinking of how I can serve the Lord in a way that whatever is cooked today, every single item is relished by the Lord. So sometimes what happens is, there is we invite some devotees home and we plan a menu. We are careful, some welcome drinks, some starters and some main course and some dessert. So like this we plan. And then what happens is we are cooking. So some items we are able to focus and prepare nicely. Some items turn out well. And some items, this time is very less. They're about to come and one or two items are still less. So we'll just rush up and make something. So what happens is some items are very well done and some items are, a little compromised. But here, Advaita Acharya, the time of cooking itself, is thinking that how every single item should be relishable to the Lord.
Yadi asi bena sanyasira goshti laya Kichu na kaiba tabe janiyamiha.
So now Advaita Acharya is voicing out his innermost concern. He's saying if he comes along with other sannyasis, I am certain he will not eat very much. So generally, as we have been reading, that whoever invites Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then Mahaprabhu goes along with his other sannyasi associates. So Advaita Acharya is thinking that there is no problem with him coming with other sannyasis, but he will not eat very much. He will not be able to relish the bhoga, what we are cooking, if there are others also along with him.
Like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invited, so the special room was made where only one entrance was there for the Lord to come.
Apekshita yata yata mahanta sannyasi sabai prabhura sange viksha kare nasi.
Generally, all the sannyasis accompany the Lord every day to take their meals.
Sabai prabhure karen parama apeksha Prabhu Sangha Sabasi Prite Karen Bhiksha. They have all great respect for the Lord. So out of affection, they take their meals with him. So Advaita Acharya is very clear that he is not holding any grudge against the sannyasis. In fact, he is telling that those sannyasis, their devotion for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so glorious that because of their affection, they come and they take meals with him. Advaita chintena mane hena paka hoya Ekeshwara Prabhu asi karena vijaya.
Advaita thought, how nice are all these preparations. If only the Lord would come alone. So this finally has revealed his heart. In his thought, it has now become very clear that what is his innermost desire, that I want the Lord to come alone and just see such nice preparation. So if Lord will come alone, he will not be hesitant and he will actually, I can coax him to take everything nicely.
Ishvara okariya sankhya namera grahana Madhya nadi kriya kari bare hailamana. Meanwhile, the Lord completed the chanting of his fixed number of holy names and prepared to perform his noon duties. So here we see that Sankhya Nam, it is mentioned there, Sankhya Namera Grahana. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also chanting the holy names a specific number of times. So it is not that he is just chanting, he is also counting and chanting. So that is why when we talk or when Srila Prabhupada says chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra minimum. So this is coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, that Sankhya Namera Grahan, he is counting and chanting. So he finished his prescribed number of japa and he performed his noon duties.
Sometimes people say, I chant whole day. The only thing I don't count.
Man mein chalta rehta hai. It goes on.
But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not practicing that. He is setting an example for all of us. Ye sab sannyasi prabhu sange bhiksha kare tanra sab chalila madhyana kari bare. The sannyasis who generally took their meal with the Lord also went to perform their noon duties.
Hena kale mahajhada vrishti achambite arambhila deva raja advaite rahite. At that time, now listen carefully what happens. At that time, however, Indra, the king of the demigods, suddenly sent an intense shower of rain and strong winds for the satisfaction of Advaita Acharya. Shila vrishti chaturdike baje jan jana asambhava vata savrishtira nahi sima.
Hailstones began to fall everywhere and the wind blew fiercely and it rained without limit.
Sarvadika andhakara haila dhulaya vasaya ite keha path nahi paya. All the directions became so darkened with dust in the air that the sannyasis could not find the way to their residences. So all this is happening by the intense desire and meditation of Advaita Acharya. Now who is Advaita Acharya? So Advaita Acharya is a combination of Mahavishnu and Sadashiv. Who can be as powerful as him? On his desire, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this material world. He advented. I hope we all remember that Advaita Acharya sat and he was worshipping Shaligram, offering Ganga Jal and Tulasi and every single day and calling out for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. So when Mahaprabhu could appear, of course Indra has sent this hailstorm and turbulence to not let other sannyasis reach. Hena jhada vahe keha sthira hoite nare keha nahi jane kotha laya kare.
The wind was so forceful that no one could stand still and no one could understand what direction they were going.
Sabe yatha Shri Advaita kare narandhana tatha matrahaya alpa jhada varishana. The area where Shri Advaita was cooking, however, had only little rain and wind. Jhada varishana, alpa jhada varishana. Alpa, very little rain and wind happened there. So the wind, the storm, the hailstorm, nothing impacted Advaita Acharya's cooking.
Yatanyasi diksha kare prabhu samahati nahika udesha karo ke bagela kati.
The sannyasis who generally took their meals with the Lord got lost and no one knew where they went. So they had gone to complete their known duty so that they can come back, accompany the Lord to Advaita Acharya's house and honor prasadam. But somehow they all got lost.
Etha Shri Advaita Simha kari arandhana upasari tui lena Shri Anna Vyanjana.
Meanwhile, the lion-like Advaita finished cooking and cleaned a spot where he placed the rice and vegetable preparations.
Grita dadi dugda sara navani pishtaka nana vida sharakara
Sandesha kadaka.
He also set out ghee, yogurt, milk, cream, butter, pishtaka, a sweet preparation made with rice, varieties of sweets, sandesh, and bananas. So he started preparing.
Sabara upare diya tulasi manjari dhyane vasilena ani bare gaurahari.
After putting a tulsi manjari on each preparation, Advaita sat down and meditated on bringing Gaurahari there. So like how we make the bhoga plate and we keep it in the altar and chant the mantras and request Krishna to accept the offering. So similarly, Advaita Acharya has prepared everything. He laid down the tulsi manjaris on all the preparations and there he sits and meditated on Lord Gaurahari to come.
Sabara upare diya.
Sorry.
After putting a tulsi manjari on each preparation, Advaita Acharya sat down and meditated on bringing Gaurahari there. Advaita meditated in such a way that Lord would come alone. In fact, by the desires of Advaita, Sri Gaurachandra did come to his house alone.
Hare Krishna, Bali Prema Sukhe, Pratyaksha Lila Asi Advaita Sammukhe. The Lord was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Lord was chanting ecstatically and he came before Advaita. And now what happens? After that, we will see in the next class. So it was an amazing, blissful session today where not only we read from Chaitanya Charitamrta, but we also read from Chaitanya Bhagavat and saw that how Advaita's prayers are being answered and Indra becomes an instrument in fulfilling his desires here. So he sent this rain and thunderstorm and hailstorm, and the sannyasis who actually lived there, they somehow forgot the way and they all went missing. And Chaitanya Mahāprabhu arrived alone there. So thank you all for joining and we request all of you to share your realizations, something which touched your heart so that you can internalize today's learning. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Radha